Then, so as far as what's happened in court today, General Shadrack Sibiya's lawyer is arguing that Fannie Masemola, the National Commissioner's decision to order him to stay home while the allegations against him are being investigated was unjust, was ventilated in the court. Also questions about whether the action by Masemola himself was warranted, given that the Commission of Inquiry is going to be looking into everything that's gone on, or at least that's alleged to have gone on within the police service and broader justice cluster, according to the KZN head of police, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Let's talk more about the legal action. Bring in now legal expert Elton Hart. Good to have you on the program as always, Elton. So is the action taken by Fannie Masemola against Sibiya one that was in fact unjust and irrational, is the question?
Tembekile, if one looks at the decision by the National Commission, one looks at where is the empowering provision that gives him the power to actually do what he did. And we heard that General Sibiya's legal team was arguing to say that, listen, yeah, I think this is a disguised suspension. This what you are calling a stay-at-home order. And then one needs to look at, and I could see that General Fannie Masemola was drawing two sections in the Constitution to say he has got powers in terms of the Constitution. But the Constitution is also clear to say that there must be national legislation that sets out the functions, powers, and duties of the police and the police service. And that is found in SAPS Act. And if you go look at the regulations, then the regulations fall short of what he has done. So I think General Masemola, in his way of telling General Sibiya to stay at home, that argument of him lacks merit, and I think on that ground General Sibiya has got a good case, and his legal representative Advocate Pramit stated it out nicely to say that this what you did was irrational and it's unlawful. And even one could have put a tail onto it that there's no law of general application that is actually allowing you to do what you are doing.
On that point then, Elton, legally, because words have meaning, right? Is a stay-at-home order the same thing as a suspension in law?
The thing is, like, that's why they used the word stay at home and did not want to use the suspension, because they knew if the suspension comes up already, they know that what they were doing is irrational, it's unlawful. So now they created something that they say, in terms of the Constitution, I can say to you, you are not suffering any prejudice, you are not without pay, so where is the harm that you're suffering? I'm literally saying to you, listen, yeah, you're going to receive a salary, but you don't need to work. So there's no harm in that. But General Sibiya looks at it from the other perspective to say that the mere fact that that he's being told to stay at home, that already sort of half creates the impression that he was involved in some wrongdoing. And then it amounts to some sort of half disguised suspension. That stay away.
But Elton, given that in most jobs you can often be suspended pending an investigation or the outcome at least of a disciplinary process, is this action itself out of bounds with what would be reasonable? For example, the idea that if Sibiya were to return to his desk tomorrow, that might compromise, if you will, the ability of the investigation process to go ahead unhindered. Is that logical?
The thing is, like, now one needs to look at, if we go look at the merit, to say, listen, yeah, here's some allegations that was made by General Mkhwanazi, to say that he suspects that General Sibiya was involved in wrongdoing in performing his duties. Then the National Commissioner, Fannie Masemola, was supposed to use the Discipline Act and to say clearly to General Masemola, to General Sibiya, listen, yeah, there's these allegations, I give you time to make written representations, make your representations, and based on that, I make a decision to suspend or not to suspend. If he did that, we would not have been having this conversation, because then he would have followed the SAPS discipline regulations properly. But what General Masemola did is, like, he worked in reverse gear, and I think that's where his problem is. I'm not saying there's no merit in his suspending or disguised suspension, or that they call a stay away or stay at home order, because police work on ranks and orders. So I'm not saying there's no merit in doing that, but I'm saying the way you went about to actually get him to stay at home, one can see that it was a disguised suspension, but not using the words in English to say you are suspended.
So legally here, what is the easiest workaround? Is it for Sibiya to then go back to work pending the conclusion of the work of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, which we know, even in its powers, will be able to make the sort of findings that could determine whether one remains in the employ of the state or not?
No, obviously, the court will make a decision, but I think if he goes back to the office, people might say that we've lost or we're losing trust in the criminal justice system, because now a person that's implicated by General Makonazi is allowed to go back to work, and he could actually influence the investigation and the inquiry itself. But on the other hand, one needs to look at now, here's an individual that says, you did not follow proper processes, giving me a chance to actually make oral representations. You've impugned my constitutional rights. You've impugned my rights as set out in the labor relations laws and everything. So here you're sitting between a rock and a hard place, and now you need to make that decision. So either way, General Masemola is in a tight spot, but I think if he did what he did, following his discipline that he knows he can follow, he would not be in this position now.
So on powers alone, Elton, if the argument follows that Masemola does not have the right legally to suspend Sibiya, who does that power rest with? Who else could take the same decision if he's able, for instance, in this case, to get back to work?
But remember now, we must remember he's applying for an interdict. But this interdict is not indefinite, and it's also not so overarching. It's also got limits into saying you cannot suspend me pertaining to the allegations of what General Makonazi. But if General Sibiya is found wanting on other allegations, then the National Commissioner can still institute disciplinary proceedings against him and actually then suspend him. But the problem with that is that they will say that you've been targeting me, so you just found another way to suspend me. So that's always that catch-22 that the National Commission now sits with.
Elton Hart, legal expert, good to talk to you this evening on the SABC.